As we inch closer to the NFL draft, smoke season starting to pick up. We've got a ton of people in Santa Clara, prospects checking in, doing the pre draft work with the San Francisco 49ers. Hey, we're getting close to the NFL draft, and we are going to see how the San Francisco 49ers continue to build through the draft and how they get better through the draft. And so, what we're going to do today also is this will be an AMA. You can literally ask me anything. I'm going to be looking at the comments. You guys could drive the conversation any which way you want. So, get your questions in. We'll talk about it, and we'll also talk about the draft here coming up. And the pesky Steelers, those Steelers won't go away. We're going to talk about all that stuff coming up right now. Let's go. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday night as we get closer to the NFL draft. Shout out to everyone tapping in. Smash that like button, sub if you haven't already. It's SDS time. Shout out to all the SDS vibing. We see you guys chilling. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, this is an opportunity for you guys to ask questions, opportunity for you to drive the conversation towards where you want to go, whether you want to talk prospects, whether you want to talk roster construction, whether you want to talk all these pesky Steelers that won't get away. Leave us alone. Leave BA alone. I think what I could say that I am most looking forward to is the BA trade conversation being over, one way or the other. I know I'm with a lot of you guys is like, you're tired of talking about the Brandon Aiyuk situation. And unfortunately, as we know, we have an invisible deadline that is the NFL draft. So, like clockwork, the smoke continues to pick up. And a lot of people don't want to talk about the smoke. Totally understand it. But hey, we're going to talk about all things pertinent covering the San Francisco 49ers. So, the thing I'm most looking forward to is getting across that imaginary finish line. And honestly, one way or the other, I'm excited to not be able to talk about BA getting traded anymore. The hope is that we get through the NFL draft and it's now just when will BA get paid? And that's really about it. So if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, there was that guy came back. the tax collector came back. The guy who told NFL Twitter that Brandon Aiyuk had officially requested a trade, and then his agent shot that down. He came back and he tweeted something about how the Steelers are still hot and heavy on Aiyuk and they're trying to trade for him. And I asked around because I know one of my guys who actually covers the Steelers for Sports Illustrated and CBS, asked him about this. He says he doesn't trust the tax guy. That guy was aggregating some other content that was put out. But he said he trusts anything that comes out from him. He's connected to the organization. So at least the way it's coming out, is that the Steelers want Brandon Aiyuk, and it would make sense. Like, why wouldn't the Steelers want Brandon Aiyuk? Why wouldn't any team want Brandon Aiyuk? He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Will they get Brandon Aiyuk remains to be the question. And kind of based on the article that was written, that was sourced information, was that yes, the Steelers are interested in Brandon Aiyuk. No, they don't want to pay that much for Brandon Aiyuk. So then, no Brandon Aiyuk. I really do believe that if Brandon Aiyuk is going to get traded, it would have to be a whole lot. Other than that, non-starter, in my opinion. What do I think about Brock Bowers? I'll have to be honest. I have not watched him all that much, so don't really have strong feelings on him one way or the other. Um, yeah, I don't have strong feelings on him. Justin says, if they had a top 30 with Cowing, where do you think they're targeting him? Cowing feels like a fourth or fifth round pick. I think considering the deep class at wide receiver, the deep class at offensive line, and the other positions, and I would say they would be targeting him beyond the third. I would say Cowing to me is probably going to be able to be had at a value because of his perceived size. Like one of the sites that I really enjoy using has Cowing ranked as the 25th best prospect. They actually have him ahead of Luke McCaffrey by one spot. So I'm thinking fourth, fifth. If you could get Cowing in the fifth, I think that would be just a phenomenal value. Um, he, you know, I think they need a legit slot guy. I think they need a legit slot guy. And I was hot and heavy on Demario Douglas last year out of Liberty. Thought he would have been a perfect player for the San Francisco 49ers, and the 49ers didn't take him. He went in the sixth round and ended up leading the Patriots in receiving in his rookie season. Enchilada says, should we target O-line or wide receiver in the draft? I would say we target both. I think you go both. I definitely think the 49ers should come away with a wide receiver. There's a lot of good wide receivers in this class, but I'm more looking for a wide receiver around the third round. Um, Wide receiver in the third, if you can push it to fourth, fifth, that works as well. But I really like guys like Jalen McMillan, Malik Washington, kind of in that area, Jalen Polk as well. Jamari Thrash, I think, would be around that territory as well. So there's some good wide receivers that you can get in third, fourth, fifth round. So I think that's where you would try to target them. Offensive line, I wouldn't be surprised if they target offensive line as well in potentially the second round, maybe pushing a little bit further back with O line, trying to get a developmental guy in that regard. But yeah, they need to go both. I thought they should have went offensive line last year. They had an opportunity to take an offensive lineman at a value in the fourth. They opted to go Latu, and there's no guarantee that Latu's even going to make the roster next year. They passed on two offensive line prospects, DeJuan Jones and Blake Freeland. Both guys, I think DeJuan Jones is definitely proven to be the better offensive lineman right now, but Blake Freeland ended up starting most of his rookie season, and again transitioning from left to right, and he did have some struggles, but to be honest, I would expect any offensive linemen going from left to right and starting, basically being thrown into the fire to start due to injury, having some struggles. But I do think that those guys are both arrows pointing up on Dewan Jones and even Blake Freeland, who did struggle a little bit last year, but to be expected with rookie offensive linemen. Um, let's see. What are some other questions? And again, I'm doing an AMA, so you can literally ask any question. It doesn't have to be draft related. It could be draft related, could be roster construction related, whatever you want. Drop your questions into the chat, and we're just vibing today. Got a late live, off season, full effect, all that stuff. Doopy says, "Do we think Trent Taylor is a can't body to help teach up Danny Gray or Ronnie Bell?" I would say right now, Trent Taylor is your starting punt returner. I really believe that the 49ers have just been searching and searching and searching for someone who can literally just catch a punt. And they go back to the well to a guy who's familiar, and they instantly get a guy who can be a starting punt returner. And he could even be a guy who, maybe ends up on the practice squad, but you can elevate the guys off the practice squad up to the roster, and he could just literally be a punt returner. So I think at minimum right now, what we're looking at is Trent Taylor is your starting punt returner. I think that's the role that he will immediately fill. If Trent Taylor presents or provides any impact as a wide receiver, that would be huge. But for me, in the way that I'm looking at it, is you're getting a day one, we can count on you punt returner. We haven't had that in a while. We have. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, you guys know we've experimented with Brandon Aiyuk at punt returner, Debo Samuel. Like we have literally, literally, literally just tried to find someone to return some freaking punts, and we have just been snake bitten with the punt returner. But also the 49ers haven't, they got Ray McLeod, and I think that was the whole point of getting Ray. Ray, yes, could have been used as a wide receiver, but I think their thought process is we got a guy who could return. And he didn't really do anything. He made me nervous. He made me nervous back there. I never really felt comfortable with Ray, considering that's what he was kind of brought in to do. I mean, there were times before the Super Bowl where I was like, all right, get Ray out of here. I think I even remember tweeting about it because, I was so over it. I was like, I don't trust Ray back there. Like, get him out of here. Get someone else. Like, let's try to find someone that we can trust. And I think that's really the key thing there. And Trent Taylor might not, you pull up his production, it might not be like, oh, this is the next coming of what's his name, the great Chicago returner, Devin Hester or something like that. You're looking for someone you can freaking rely on to catch the ball and maybe advance it a little bit. Like, that's where we're at. We haven't been able to find someone that we can just like count on to return a punt. Just return a punt. That's it. That's it. And so I think you get that with Trent. Will he teach those guys? He could. I don't see why he wouldn't. But I think he's here to earn a role, and we'll see if he can earn that role throughout training camp. So we'll definitely see for sure. We need to trade Aiyuk for the Raiders' 13th pick draft wide receiver. Excuse me, Brian Thomas. He is taller and bigger than Aiyuk. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm jaded from the DeForest for Kinlaw trade. I don't like the idea of trading Aiyuk for rookie wide receiver. I don't like it. It doesn't like if I'm trading Brandon Aiyuk for 13. Let's play hypothetical now, right? We're just playing hypothetical. If I'm trading Brandon Aiyuk for pick 13, I don't think I'm going wide receiver. I'm going offensive line. I'm going. You guys already know where I'm going. I'm going Troy Fautanu. We're going Troy Fautanu right out the gate. We're getting a premier offensive lineman, and then we're taking a wide receiver at 31. Like that's to me how that would work. Is you would I wouldn't want to go one for one. You know what I mean? Like I would want. I do think that Brian Thomas could definitely be a phenomenal wide receiver. But for me, I would much rather go for. I don't want to do there's too much. It's just too much. It's too much. I would much rather go premier O line or premier D line. Like if a Jared Verse was available, like I would take him. Premier trenches at that pick, keep pick 31, and I'm taking a wide receiver at 31. I That's the way that I would do it. Um, if this scenario existed, if that happened, if they really did trade BA for 13. Um, Justin says, I want 2051 and Nick Herbig for Aiyuk. That would be a decent haul, man. That really would be a decent haul. You get speed off the edge. He's a second year player, I believe. I remember Justin put me on to Nick, and that speed and twitch off the edge was evident, very, very clear. But 20 and 51 on top of that, you get it done. That might, but again, from what we've heard from our Steelers sources, um, they don't want to pay that much for Aiyuk. And hey, man, if you want Brandon Aiyuk, ho, you better come correct, baby, or else we ain't picking up the phone. Like BA is our guy, and the only way BA is even considered in a trade is if the 49ers can use whatever they get in return to build out multiple spots. That's the way that I look at it. Because again, I think one of the things that's kind of lost in the BA conversation is we don't have to trade BA. BA could definitely want to be traded in order to get the pay that he deserves. And that makes all the sense in the world to me. But at the end of the day, the 49ers aren't the ones, I would say, that are necessarily like pushing to get rid of BA. Does that make sense? So, in order for that to even work in the 49ers perception, from my standpoint, was you have to wow us. You have to wow us with a package. And if that isn't going to happen, then we don't want that. We don't. I mean, I don't think we want to trade BA to begin with, but if you're not going to come correct with the king's ransom, then no, we're just going to keep BA and then hopefully pay him. Um, that would be ideal. So we'll see how it works. But I would say, yeah, it's definitely smoke until it's not. We have seen plenty of smoke get extinguished. Doesn't mean it was fake. I think that's part of it too. It's like there's so much smoke that is real smoke, but it gets extinguished. Does that make sense? Like there are so many things that go on behind the scenes that are real, legitimate, have legs. Something could have happened, but it doesn't happen. That happens all the time. So I would say this. Yes, is the trade talk smoke real? It definitely could be, but that doesn't mean it can't be extinguished either. And I think that's just, again, for me personally, that's my mindset with this whole thing. Is there a world that BA gets traded? Yes, there is. Is there a world that BA stays and gets paid a phenomenal payday? Yes, there is. So we just got to wait and see. That's why I can't wait for this draft to get here so we don't have to talk as much about the trade, and then it's more so just waiting for him to get paid. That's really all it is. Um and again, this is an AMA, so I'm kind of stuck far back in the I want to try to hit them as they come in. Um so we can Brendan Rice or Luke McCaffrey. Hot take. I'm going Luke McCaffrey. Hot take. I think everyone would go Brendan Rice. I'm going Luke McCaffrey. I think Luke McCaffrey. I think Luke McCaffrey is an interesting prospect. He doesn't look like a NFL wide receiver, but he moves like one. Oh, he moves like an NFL wide receiver. He moves really freaking well. I was super surprised watching Luke McCaffrey at the combine. I was like, this dude can move. Like, start, stop, suddenness, smooth, cutting ability. I was like, okay, Luke. Okay, Luke. All right. Um, let's see. I'm going to be honest. I haven't done any work on the safeties. I believe Bullard was in the building today for the 49ers. I haven't done work on safeties yet, so I need to. I've done a little bit of work on Sione Vaikai. I like him. He definitely seems like a 49er. I also like we need more Polynesians on the team. I'm all for loading up this roster with Polynesians. Man, you get the right poly boys on the squad, man. They're gonna cook hella good food. They're gonna likely be phenomenal singers. They're gonna be great teammates, and they will destroy you on the football field. Big fan of the Polynesian football players. You get me poly boys on the squad. Get me the Usos and the Tokos on the squad. Yeah, we're turning up. I'm a big fan of Polynesian players. I played with so many of them during my time in college, and really just got to understand them, their culture. Um, and when you find the good poly boys, man, those dudes are built different. They're literally prototypical perfect football players. Like they're built in the lab. Uh, do you think that's why I like Troy Faltanu so much? I'm like, bro, not only is he a dope offensive lineman, but he's poly too. Sign me up. Sign me up. Uh, why do I say Niners Nation instead of Niners Empire? Did I even say Niners Nation? I typically don't say either. But did I say Niners Nation? I don't think I did. Um, I don't particularly care, to be honest. First of all, shout out Niners Nation, one of the biggest, not one of the biggest blog site covering the 49ers is called Niners Nation. I don't care. Perfectly honest with you. This is something that, I've dealt with since covering the 49ers, whether it's players, whether it's media, whether it's other fans. I personally do not care. I know this stems from the Raider rivalry because they call it Raider Nation. So Niners don't want to be called Nation. They want to be called Empire because they don't want to be associated with the Raiders. But guess what? The Raiders aren't here. I don't care. I don't care. I really don't. I don't care. Because we're the faithful. That's what I call the 49ers. I call us the faithful. That's really because the faithful were worldwide. Like that's what I call us. I reference 49er fans as the faithful for the most part. Have I seen Steve Smith breaking down Jamari Thrash? I did not. I like Steve Smith's breakdowns too. He actually I watched one of his breakdowns on Cephas, and then I did a little bit more work on Cephas, and I was like, oh, I like it. I like the thought process. Let's see. Like I said, this is an AMA, so I'm checking the comments. Johnny Newton, the next Aaron Donald. I think it's really hard to say that he's the next Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald is a bit of a unicorn. Um, and again, he was so dominant coming out of Pitt. You could totally see that he was going to have success at the next level. Now, Johnny Newton has similar physical traits and things like that. I wouldn't necessarily call him the next AD, but I would classify him as kind of a Aaron Donald archetype. Like he is of the Aaron Donald mold, if that makes sense. Um, I think it's hard to compare. Like you can do it. Like there are definitely prospects you come across where you're like, all right, I'm ready to pull out the big guns in regards to player comps. Like for me at the time, DeAndre Hopkins was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And I'm watching CeeDee Lamb and I'm like, yeah, CeeDee Lamb is to me his player comp is DeAndre Hopkins. Like he is going to be a legitimate certified wide receiver one. He's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL one day. Um, so that's why I comped him to at the time. DeAndre was probably considered the best wide receiver at the time. That was around 2020. So AD, uh, that's a hard one, but definitely from a physical stature, play style, yeah, he definitely plays like AD for sure. Um, I could see that. Jatavian Sanders from Texas looks like a good tight end. We should draft him. I've seen a little bit of him. Definitely seems like a move tight end, a receiver first type tight end. I was pretty surprised when I believe it was who's the tight end that I talked to at the combine. I talked to um Jaheim Bell at the combine, and he said he had a formal with the 49ers. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting because he's essentially a glorified big slot wide receiver. He's 6'3, 240 pounds. He's not particularly fast. He runs a 4.6, which from a tight end standpoint is decent, but 6'2 isn't big. 240 pounds isn't big. Again, I don't have a problem with those things typically as long as they don't show up in the run game. And he definitely seems like he is a wide receiver first tight end. Um, which I'm not opposed to. I'm not. I'm not at all. I think the 49ers would thrive having two tight ends on the field that could be used as wide receiver threats. Um, but I just know that they need a blocker to go to pair with Kittle. Like they just have to have it. Just based on what I've seen, unless they completely change their run game and they go away from that, that I, based on Kyle's scheme, they need a backup tight end who can block almost as good as Kittle. So that's why guys like Tip Ryman to me seem more like a fit. Vikings did it with Diggs for JJ. Can always draft someone the same. I mean, that is probably the best example of it working for sure. The best example of that situation was the Vikings trading away Stephon Diggs for Justin Jefferson. And I mean, when you talk about a win for the Vikings, that is one of the biggest return on investments ever, probably in recent memory in the NFL. Because you have to remember, Stephon Diggs was a fifth round draft pick. He was a fifth round draft pick out of Maryland. They trade him for a first, and that first is Justin Jefferson, who is now the best young wide receiver in the NFL. That's like a Hall of Fame return on investment right there. So yes, it I'm not saying that it can't happen at all. I feel like I have a little bit of PTSD, and I'm not sitting here saying like I've super studied Brian Thomas. So I can't sit here and like bang the table and be like, yeah, that's a win. I honestly don't know. I don't I haven't studied Brian Thomas. I've seen, highlights and things like that, and I see what he's capable of. Um, but I just don't know. I would feel much better if like I did a study on him and then I'm like, yeah, this guy's for real. Which I don't doubt that he is. But I'm just a little concerned. Uh, I would, especially at 13, when you could have a big time offensive lineman right there as well. Uh, Bay Area baller, what's up, man? He says, "Are you a Jerry Newton guy or Byron Murphy?" They're kind of similar. I feel like if you're one of those guys, like if you like either one of those, you're kind of in that same boat. Jerry Jerzon, I believe is his name. Jerry, just to make it easy on me. Um, what is he? He's 6'2", 6'2", 300. Byron Murphy is 6 foot 300. They're kind of similar. Very good athletes. Both have really good first step explosion. They can both play 0 to 3. Uh, and they can pass, they can rush the passer from the interior, and they can also take on double teams. And they're both phenomenal athletes. Byron Murphy ran a 4.87 40 at 300 pounds, and Jerry ran a 4.95, so sub 5'4" 40, which is great for a guy that size. I like both, to be honest. Um, I think both would be great to have on the interior of the defensive line for sure. Um, I'm not of the mindset that they're too small. Again, if you're looking to pound the table that a defensive lineman is too small because they're 6 foot or 6'2", you're coming to the wrong party, pal. You're coming to the wrong party. If you're looking for me to confirm priors off measurables, I'm not that guy. If anything, I like to prove that the unfavorable measurable players can actually be better than people expect. So when I look at those two guys, if there's any reason that they slide to 31, I think you have to take them. I don't think there's any scenario where you're staring at Jerry Newton or Byron Murphy in the face at pick 31 and you don't take them. I feel like that would be a home run draft selection to be able to get either of those defensive tackles at 31. I wouldn't be surprised if they were sliding too. Like if either one of those guys slid into the 20s, I would probably be on the phone checking prices. Well, what's it going to cost us to jump up? What's it going to cost? Because if you can get one of the premier interior defensive tackles, that is such a huge need, and you get cost controlled, you get a 5th-year option, and you put a guy next to Hargrave who could start day one. Yeah, I'm doing that. I would even consider trading up to go get one of those guys if that was a possibility. Um, we don't necessarily need to draft offensive tackle right away. Roger Rosengarten could be available in the 3rd round. Yeah, I would say that his testing has put him kind of in the 2nd round range. I would say his tape to me looks like a 3rd round player. Um, kind of in that Blake Freeland range. But his testing could bump him up. And he's gotten a lot of hype as of late. So that could bump him up into the 2nd round range. But I wouldn't feel great if the 49ers took Roger Rosengarten anywhere higher than like pick 50. If they took him at 63, I could be okay with it. I would be okay with it. I wouldn't love it. I'd be okay with it. I'd understand it. I'd understand the logic. Wouldn't love it. I'd be okay with it because he has high upside. That's the thing with a guy like Rodgers. He's a very high upside prospect, but I think there's work that is needed. So um we'll see about that. Cooper DeJean, I he's an interesting guy because I've heard like, oh, he's going to go in the 20s. Oh, he's going to slide out into the 2nd. I don't know, man. Listen, I haven't watched again. He's a guy that I just haven't watched, so I can't sit here and give you a definitive scouting report on him. Um, outside a couple highlights, I can tell he's a really good athlete. He's got decent size. He's 6 foot. He doesn't run a blazing 40 or anything like that, but it's fast enough. Um, and he's clearly solidified himself as one of the best cornerbacks in this class. Um, if he's there at 31, I would consider it. If you've done the tape study and you believe that this guy could start for you on the outside day one, if he's there, take him. If you've done that work and you've done that study and you feel that him being there at 31 and he can start, yeah, you take him. I can't sit here and definitively say I would take him because I need to do more homework on him, but the thought process is still relevant. Those guys will do the work. And if that thought process aligns with the tape, then yeah, you take him. I'm all for taking a starting cornerback.
At the 31st.
I would absolutely do that. Like if they took Kool-Aid at 30-31, I'm doing backflips. I'd be like, hell yeah. Like we got a high upside potential superstar cornerback at 31. Same thing applies to Cooper DeJean. I just haven't watched him enough. Um we don't need a nickel corner. We need outside press corner. Renardo Green is the guy for us. I posted about Renardo today. Um, I like Renardo a lot. Um, I've been kind of bewildered, like why no one is talking about him because he probably is the best press man corner in the NFL or coming into this class. Like, just go watch what he did against Malik Neighbors. He's a great athlete, and you can tell he understands how to play the position. He's a guy that I really like, and feel like you put him on the opposite side of uh, Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir, and you could run way more press man than normal. Like you would have guys that you could lock up on the outside, and maybe that would allow you to send some more pressures and allow you to get more creative with what you do with your front seven because you've got three quality cover cornerbacks um, that can lock down the guys in front of them. So I'm a big fan of Renardo. If you get him at 63, or if you could get him in the third, that would be huge. Huge. Um, let's see. Shout out my guy. Good to see you as well. Thanks for hopping in. Uh, my day's been good. I'm chilling. We're vibing. Did I pass the tight end question? I believe someone asked me about Ben Sinnott and Tip Ryman. Where did that go though? I see Jeremy saying Ben Sinnott is the whole package at tight end. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Oh, here it is. Callie said, Brad, have you watched Ben Sinnott and Tip Ryman? Are they possible targets? I think both are possible targets. I agree 100% that Ben Sinnott is probably a guy that you would potentially take as high as two, could be a bit of a reach at 63. But if you could get him in the third, he's a guy that I really like. And Tip, to me, because he is considered primarily just a blocker, I think you can get him beyond the fifth. So fifth, six would be ideal for Tip. But I also feel like Tip would fit what the 49ers are doing very well. So it depends on what you're looking for. Um, I could see a scenario where the 49ers feel pretty good about where Braden Willis is at. And so Braden Willis can be kind of like a move tight end. And then you get Tip to solidify as a blocker. And then you kind of go from there. I could see that scenario playing out. 49ers need to trade up and grab Troy Fautanu. Sign me up. Rook Ro. Rook Ro. There we go. I like him. I think him and Dolores very similar type defensive tackles. But I think I like Rook better. So far because I was kind of watching Dolores as well when I was watching Fuaga. Um, And I think I like what I've seen so far out of Rook better, but they are very similar prospects in how they play and how they win. But both of them fit what I think the 49ers would be looking for a defensive tackle prospect later if you can get them in the second, that would be ideal. Let's see. Ooh, I'm caught up with the chat. What players would the Raiders have to basically give up if a deal was made for Aiyuk? I mean, it depends on if pick 13 is available, that would be majority of that value. You could potentially get a Hunter Renfrow. I don't know if he's under contract, but it sounds like the Raiders are ready to move off him. If you really wanted to, you could probably get Hunter Renfrow in return. On top of the 13th pick. If you needed a sweetener. I like Divine Diablo. If you could get Divine Diablo as a linebacker, I would be down for that as well. I liked him a ton coming out of Virginia Tech. Ooh, who gets drafted first, McMillan or Javon Baker? That's a good question. They're pretty close in the rankings. They might even be back to back in the rankings. Javon Baker is ranked 17th wide receiver in this class. Jalen McMillan ranks 20th. So they're pretty close. They're very close in measurable, both 6'1". Both ran around the same 40. I don't know. I like McMillan. So I might go McMillan first. But it definitely could be Baker as well. I think they're very similar in regards to where they're ranked and kind of perceived. So that might be a situation where you try to decide which guy fits the culture better, who has the least amount of red flags, injury concerns, stuff like that. But both are good prospects too. So I have to go to Costco. Oh. I have to go to Costco. No, I don't have to. I get to go to Costco. So I'm about to head out. Shout out to all you guys for tapping in. One day closer to the draft, baby. Can't wait. And you know why I can't wait, for multiple reasons. All that good stuff. We're Costco boys, so we move. Time to go get a chicken bake. Appreciate it, everyone. I'm out of here for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.